We love getting to hear from you every week, and the comments. Jen is love.
Yes.
She just loves commenting back to you. And so thank you for interacting with us. It's like a two-way conversation that we can have with you. And today we're talking about prayer again. And Jen, today we're talking about how prayer is such a privilege. And so often we don't realize that prayer is a privilege. We may think it's a duty or like something we have to do, but it's a privilege. Every time that we are praying and talking to God, we're actually walking into God's throne room. We're entering his throne room. And Jen, there's a story in the Bible you love about Queen Esther.
Oh yes, I love the story of Queen Esther and just the impact she made for the Lord. But in her story, she was so afraid to go before her husband and to confront him about saving her people.
So he was the king, and she
yes.
was afraid for her life. She could not walk into his throne room and approach him or even ask him a question without risking her life. He could have killed her for that. And yet, God is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and we have direct access to him anytime. You know, there's also in the Old Testament, Jennifer, only the high priest could go into the Holy of Holies in the temple, and that's where the presence of God was on the Ark of the Covenant. And no one could walk in there except for the high priest. And they would even tie a rope around the high priest's ankle because in case there was sin in his life and he died when he was in the presence of God, they would pull him out because everyone was afraid to walk in there because it would mean death. And something happened when Jesus died on the cross. What happened to the Holy of Holies?
The veil was torn, and we can have direct access now to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We can talk directly to him, and he longs for an intimate, personal relationship with you.
He does. Jeremiah 33:3 says, "Call to me, and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things which you do not know." We can cry out to God anytime, any place. I know, Jen, we love praying to God in the car. We often pray out loud, and we'll be begging God to help her brother do great at baseball, or we just pray for everything. We pray for parking spots. We just ask God for whatever we need that day. And so we love to also go on prayer walks and just talk to God wherever we go. And, you know, prayer is such a privilege, and you can ask God for what you need. And today, we just want to hear from you. If you will comment on the blog, we would love to know a prayer request that God has answered for you. So Jen, is there a prayer request God's answered for you? I know you've prayed for some things for years.
Yes, there is a friend of mine that I have been praying for 3 years who had cancer, and as of today, she is cancer-free. God has answered that prayer request totally.
That's so great. So we want to hear from you. Maybe you have a request that you've prayed to God for. It could be something really little that God did or something really big, a miracle that God did in your life. And if you'll just comment and let us know, we would love to hear your stories. Jen would love to read your stories of answered prayer. So thank you again for joining us, and we can't wait to hear from you.